Welcome back, everybody, to Greystone Acres Kitchen. Hey, thanks for coming and joining us today. We're doing another monthly recipe. This time, we're not focusing solely on Appalachian cooking and Appalachian culture, except for this little part. We're going to talk about a little bit of seasonality with a few things. During this time of year, November, as it is, it's starting to get cold. I think we have snow coming up here in about next week. And this is the time of year we like to do a lot more roasts, stews, roasting indoors, and a lot heartier meals. And part of that is, the reason it's like that is the seasonality, traditional seasonality of our food. Nowadays, we can get whatever we want from the grocery store. You can get tomatoes in the middle of winter, lettuce, beans, everything you want that typically locally is not being able to be grown because of the weather, unless you're buying from somebody that has a greenhouse, which is great. But right now we're going to talk about seasonal items, and we're talking about carrots, parsnips, turnips, that those root crops that actually can stay in the soil for a little bit longer. And to tell you the truth, in our garden right now, I had 3 rows of turnips that are just going to be there until I dig them up and eat them that day. And that's how traditionally things would have been eaten back in the day before we had such an industrious food system. And what we'll be looking at is giving you guys a meal based around that. Now, this is not a traditional Appalachian meal. However, roasted chicken is very traditional Appalachian, as it is in a lot of America. Now, so for this meal, what we're going to do is roasted chicken with roasted vegetables. And this is a type of meal that's easy to do during the week. This is why we wanted to do it. Easy to do, it's simple, it's just mixing up a lot of seasonings and shaking them up in a bag, and boom, you're pretty much done. Okay, so before we get into it, typically I would shout out to a local business. I did not have time to go get a t-shirt this week. So I'm not going to do this on this episode, but the next episode we will get right back into that, and that is my fault. But bonus for today, I'm introducing my wife. Now, she's not going to be on camera, but she's going to be talking about a little bit of this science that has to do with what we're cooking today, and that has to do actually with emulsification of mayo and brining on the chicken. Now, we'll get into how we brine this chicken in a little bit, but she's going to give you a little bit of background, a little bit of science, okay? A little bit of a mad science, if you will. We just came off of Halloween, so why not? All right, so as always, before we start getting into the instructions, we're going to get into the ingredients. So we're going to start with our parsnips and carrots, okay? Now for the parsnips, I'll show you how we're going to prep those, but it's pretty simple. Thickest portion, we're going to cut the thickest and smallest portion off. We're going to take quarters out of the thickest portion after we peel and take the ends off. And then on the third portion, we're just going to dice into medallions. Pretty much the same for carrots, except we're going to do halves on the larger ends. So for the parsnips, what we're going to coat these with, seasoning wise, is salt, pepper, rosemary, and minced garlic at the end of the 10 minutes of cooking. And we're going to cook them total for 35 minutes. The good thing about this recipe, everything's going to cook for pretty much the exact same time at the exact same temperature. All right. Now for the carrots, we got salt, pepper, cumin, and thyme, and then also at the last 10 minutes we're going to add some honey, a little honey drizzle, add a little bit of sweetness in the carrots. Now carrots are naturally sweet, so it's going to really bring it up, that sweetness. For the chicken, again, we're just going to season, give a nice little rub on it of salt, pepper, smoked paprika, garlic, and cumin. We're going to rub that into the chicken as best we can before we put it on the pan. And then last, this is our dipping sauce. Now we pre-made this when you make this recipe, I would suggest pre-making this. A lot of this stuff actually can be pre-done, like dicing up your veg. But we pre-made this. So all that's in here is yogurt, house-made mayonnaise, which Hope's going to show you how, a little bit of dill, salt, pepper, garlic, sugar, and vinegar. All of them about half a teaspoon worth on those. And I will list that part of the recipe in the recipe that we put on our website. I'm actually going to list everything else as well. The sauce is the only one that has a hard measurement. Everything else is kind of how you feel, okay? That's the beauty of it. All we're going to do is toss this stuff in a bag, shake it up, coat it, put it on a pan, put it in the oven. All right, so our oven's going to be preheated to 400 degrees, and we're going to cook this thing for about 35 minutes. That's the total cooking time. So that plus prep, you're looking about an hour of work, and that's it. So yeah, so before I get into the steps and how we cook this, Hope's going to fill you in on the emulsification, how that works, and the brining process. Stay tuned.
Thanks, David. Mayonnaise is not an instrument, it's an emulsion, and that was a SpongeBob joke. I'm a working mom of a toddler, and I meal prep a week at a time so that easy weeknight meals can actually be easy weeknight meals instead of an oxymoron, and still include some fun and flavorful touches like our sauce for this recipe. I prepped the mayo for this sauce earlier in the week using some eggs from our laying hens. For as complicated as the science is, mayo is easy to make at home. Mayo is an emulsion, a mixture of two liquids that don't usually mix, like oil and water. An example of a temporary emulsion is a vinaigrette dressing that comes together when shaking but separates in the bottle. Mayo is a permanent emulsion. It doesn't separate with time. Butter is even an emulsion, with water emulsified in milk fat. The naturally occurring lecithin in egg yolks and mustard used in many recipes are the emulsifiers in mayo. Lecithin is a stronger emulsifier than mustard, but mustard works for things like a quick homemade dressing you'll use right away. Emulsifiers work because one end of the molecule is attracted to oil and the other end is attracted to water, and those bonds, when strong enough, hold the emulsion together. Mayo has a reputation for being tricky to make at home, but I've always had luck using a stick or immersion blender. I believe with other methods, if the oil is added too quickly, the mixing isn't quick or powerful enough and it separates. But I always have good luck with this recipe. With a stick blender, you add all the ingredients at once: egg, lemon, vinegar, mustard, salt, and oil, and blend. We're working on registering and qualifying to sell eggs, but that gives you plenty of time to perfect your mayo technique.
Now that Hope has finished that up, we're going to start doing with our instructions of how we make this meal. Now, the first step is actually we're going to be salting the chicken. Did that this morning, covered it with salt, put it back in the fridge. Make sure you pat it dry really well, get all the moisture off, put a decent amount of salt on, and like Hope said, how the brine works, that'll work during this time. Throw it back in the fridge, let it go. Before you start roasting though, I like to take my chicken out, try to get it back close to that room temperature. All right, next step is gonna be preparing your carrots and your parsnips. Fairly simple, all right? So first, after these have been washed off, we're going to cut the tops off. All right, now that the carrots and parsnips are washed, we're going to get into prepping them. Okay, so I'm just going to take the first one here. And we're just going to cut that top off, just like this. Now, what you can do with this is either compost it, throw it away, or use it to make a vegetable stock. Put that to the side. Come around here, end piece right here. Put that also to the side. And then what we're going to do is take our peeler and just peel the whole entire root. And that's it. Same deal with this, throw it out, compost it, veggie stock. Get it off the cutting board real quick. All right, so back to what I was talking about earlier about quartering these. We're gonna go to about right here. Slice through. All right, and then one center cut, center cut, center cut, and that is it. And then we're just gonna boom. And these, medallion. And that one split. And that's it, all right? Now, with the work of some TV magic, we're gonna do the rest of these. And 1, 2, 3, and boom, there we go. All right, now time for the carrots. Pretty much the same deal. All right, we're gonna cut the ends. We're going to peel them off and then cut them into, majority are gonna be medallions, but up to maybe a little bit further, just cut them in half and then slice them that way. And that's pretty much it for carrots. Sorry for bumping the carrot over there. So we're gonna pull our carrots off, get to work. Once again, same deal. Stock, compost, trash. Get our end off. And we just peel that whole thing. Boom. And that's it. That's all nice and peeled. Get that out of the way. And maybe about right there. And then the majority of these are going to be medallioned. And slice that. And that's that. All right, now, same deal, a little bit of TV magic, and we'll get the carrots done. 1, 2, 3, boom. And there we go. All right, now that we have all our veg chopped up, ready to go, we're gonna grab our 2 bags and then we're gonna season this. Okay, so what we wanna do is get ourselves a Ziploc bag here. We'll do the carrots first. Just throw all your carrots in the bag. Now, there was one ingredient that I did leave off the list. I forgot to put on the table, but it's a kind of a no-brainer ingredient. We're gonna get a little olive oil in these bags to coat these vegetables with. That's all I'm doing, just loading up the bag. All right. So now that we have our carrots in the bag, I'm gonna add our little bit of olive oil. Just enough to coat them. Okay. And then for our carrots, we add salt, and I'm a palm guy. That ought to do enough salt there. Throw that in. Okay, we got our salt. And we're really gonna give our pepper in there. Now, if you already have ground pepper, it would probably go faster. But I do like fresh ground pepper. So we're gonna take the time to do this. Okay. Ground cumin. Okay. And then the thyme. All right. Now we might have to do another round of seasoning. Let's just see what we get when we shake up the bag. Oops. Man down. Let's see where we're at. It's not too bad. I think we use a little bit more pepper. Salt. Sprinkle, a little sprinkle there, a little love. Around and boom, that's it. And they're ready to go. All right, I'm gonna come over here and do the same thing with the parsnips. And once again, this is one of those steps that you can make ahead. Like these can sit in the bag like those carrots did. A couple days. All right. Got enough to coat. You're good there. Now for our parsnips. Once again, salt. That should do her. Pepper. Okay. Then we got our rosemary. All right. And there. And just shaking. Let's check the back, see what we got. Oh, that's pretty good coating. All right. Now we're ready for our chicken.
The mad scientist is back. I never had meat with skin or bones till we got married when I learned how much cheaper it is. I've been obsessed with crispy chicken skin ever since, so we always dry brine if we're baking or roasting. It also promotes a great sear on steaks. Dry brining is simply adding salt to meat, letting it rest, and drying off the surface before cooking. When salt is applied to the surface of meat, water is drawn out into the surface via osmosis, creating a brine on the surface of the meat. Osmosis is movement of water through a semi-permeable membrane, like the skin of the meat, from an area with lower solute concentration to higher solute concentration. Salt is the solute, the thing being dissolved into a solution. The brine then reabsorbs into the meat, allowing salt to penetrate beyond the surface. This process is diffusion, movement of particles, salt, from an area of high concentration, the skin, to an area of low concentration, the meat. It also has a mild tenderizing effect. The salt loosens the muscle fibers slightly so they don't contract as much when heated, which forces moisture out of the meat. It also slightly dissolves some muscle fibers, allowing them to more readily absorb and hold moisture like a sponge or gel. Because moisture is reabsorbed and dried off of the skin, and less moisture is being forced out during cooking, the meat is both juicier and has crispier skin. We're going to season our meat anyway, so really the secret ingredient here is time. If you cook immediately after salting, any moisture drawn to the skin will just evaporate with heat. The moisture isn't the secret ingredient either, it's just the water in the meat to begin with. Time allows it to be locked into the modified muscle fibers. Like, comment, subscribe, and share if you want more videos of me explaining junior high science.
Okay, so for our chicken, we're just gonna pat her dry. Sure, we're pretty dry there. There. And we're just gonna make sure we're good and dry there. Okay, there we go. And Fran smelt the chicken, and here she comes. All right, so for our chicken, again, we got our salt. And for this, I'm actually not going to use as much. I'm just going to pat that in there. And wipe down my hands because I'm touching the raw chicken. Got wipes off screen. Okay. These are resalted. Now I did that salt step just because I wanted to make sure about how much salt I was putting on. Because now we can do the bag trick. Throw our chicken in. Get that dirty plate out of here. All right, just like before, we got our black pepper. Good amount. And then we have our garlic powder. And this is the end of the jar for me. And our smoked paprika. Good healthy portion of that. Slide a bit of oil, not a lot. Not as much as we put on the parsnips. And then we coat. That's not bad, but a little bit more pepper. Oh, and I forgot to add our cumin. And shake again. I think we got it pretty good. All right. Okay, get you a pan. Put a little bit of tinfoil on it, and then we're ready to go. Okay. One side we're going to dump out our parsnips. You want to get them pretty evened out. Don't want too many sit on top of each other, but and then the other side, our carrots. And those actually, I think I can hit with a little bit more pepper, don't you think? A little light on the pepper front. I don't know how. A little light. There you go. And then finally, our chicken goes right smack dab in the middle. There we go. Now, let's get her in the oven. All right, so I got just put it in the oven. And so our first time is gonna be 20 minutes. After that 20 minutes, we're gonna turn our vegetables and then check our chicken. It's not gonna be done yet, but we wanna see how well that skin is browning up. And that's it. After this is just checking, make sure we get it to temp. About 35 minutes of cooking. So again, 20 minutes cook. We'll rotate the vegetables, and then we're gonna put the garlic on the parsnips and then the honey on the carrots. Put them back in the oven for another 10 and start checking it every 5. And that's it. And we'll show you the finished product once we get done here. I'll also show you the step up adding the garlic and brushing with the honey. All right, so our 20-minute timer, I just put this onto the top of the stove, and I'm gonna grab my minced garlic that I minced, and I'm just gonna throw that over all the parsnips here. Yeah, your hand might smell a little garlicky after this, but it's all good for the cause. All right, and look how that chicken's starting to cook, and you can see that skin starting to do exactly what we want. A little quick hand rinse. I don't want to get my honey container messed up. And then we are just gonna drizzle from the top ropes. All right, now with the spatula, I'm gonna turn everything and get everything in that honey. Okay, and just like before, I'll spread that out best you can, and then other side also. got into it. Got a little bit of that chicken fat on them. Ooh, that's gonna be good. All right, all nice and turned up. And we're gonna spread these out again, once again. All right, back in the oven for another 10 minutes, and then we'll start temping. All right, let's temp this. Oh yeah. Oh, look at them juices. All right, we are done. Now, that was on after we did the original 10 minutes, temped it. Wasn't where we wanted it yet. Added another 5. Boom, we're done. We're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so we're gonna get this on a plate, get it together, eat some dinner, and that's it. 400 degrees, 35 minutes, and you're ready to eat. And that's all you have to do. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you liked our video, please like and subscribe and share.